Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the March 17th Fisherstown Council meeting. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. Hope everyone had a good weekend. We do have some announcements. Pete, do you have an announcement for us?
Yes, John. Train station pedestrian plaza public open house. The town officials will host a public open house on March 25th at Hamilton Southeastern High School in the varsity gym at 6:30 p.m. Town staff, project developers, and involved community organizations will be on hand to discuss the pedestrian plaza and upgraded train platform, as well as collect input on programming and amenities. Residents are encouraged to attend, get questions, and discuss how this new public infrastructure can better serve the Fishers community.
Thank you, Pete. Scott, do you have an announcement for us?
The town is initiating the development of a pedestrian and bicycle plan to increase the safety and mobility of residents who bike and walk within our community. In an effort to create a comprehensive community-wide plan, a community forum will be held on Thursday, March 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Launch Fishers, which is the downstairs at the Fishers Library. Residents and business leaders are encouraged to attend as the town staff and community partners will introduce the project, present project findings to date, and ask for community input. So if you have an interest in being a pedestrian or riding a bicycle in the town, and that's probably a good meeting to go to.
Thank you, Scott. We also have some Boy Scouts here today as well. I look out in the audience tonight. If you want to come up to the podium, you can state your name and where you go to school and what badge you're working on right now. Come on up.
In the community.
Hi, my name is Thomas Cantor, and I go to Sand Creek Intermediate, and I'm working on my citizenship in the community badge for Troop 109.
My name is Isaac Auger. I go to FCI, and I'm working on my citizenship in the community badge.
My name is Ian Appold. I go to Riverside Junior High. I'm from Troop 109, and I'm working on citizenship in the community and communications.
I'm Ethan Everett. I'm a part of Troop 109. I'm working on communications and citizenship in the community. I go to Fisher Junior High, and I'm an 8th grader.
Thank you all very much. As some of you may be aware, there's actually a Boy Scout breakfast, if I'm not mistaken, next Wednesday morning. So certainly a fundraiser for Boy Scouts. And would you all take a moment and join me in welcoming these Boy Scouts to our meeting this evening? Thank you, gentlemen. This time we have also a very special event this evening, swearing in for our police department.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jamie Alvis, and I'm the recruiting officer. I'm proud to introduce to you our new police officer, Alyssa Hunter. Alyssa is 23 years old. She grew up in Indianapolis and graduated from Warren Central High School. She graduated from Indiana University in 2013 with a Bachelor of Arts degree majoring in criminology and sociology. She also received her law enforcement certification through Indiana University's cadet program. Alyssa was a corrections officer with the Indiana Department of Corrections Women's Prison prior to joining the Fishers Police Department. Ladies and gentlemen of the Fishers Town Council, it is my honor to invite Chief George Kale, President John Weingart, and Police Commissioner Warren Henderson to the podium for the oath of office ceremony.
Would you want to bring her up here?
You ready? Raise your right hand. pronounce your name in full. Do solemnly swear that I will support and comply with the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution and the laws of the state of Indiana, the laws and ordinances of the town of Fishers, Indiana, okay, the rules and regulations of the Fishers Police Department, and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a police officer to the best of my ability. Congratulations. Just for the council's information, this is our 102nd officer we've hired over the last 35 years. So we have one more to go.
All of which I may add George hired, which is pretty impressive.
That is impressive. Thank you all very much. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion, John, to approve the consent agenda consisting of previous meeting memoranda, March 3rd executive session, March 3rd work and regular session. Item B, R031714, request to approve resolution declaring town property as surplus. Item C, request to approve purchases of emergency lights and equipment for police department vehicles. Item D, request to approve maintenance agreement of roundabouts and medians between Town of Fishers and Ingold Dow Group. Item E, request to approve agreement to refurbish belt filter press at Cheney Creek wastewater treatment facilities. Item F, R031714A, request to approve the special contract for extension of sewer mains and facilities for Cottingham Estates between Hamilton Southeastern Utilities and the Town of Fishers.
Thank you. Do I have any abstentions? Thank you, Scott. Yes, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Pete, second by David. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, ordinance 012114, request to approve an amendment to the 141st Street and Promise Road PUD. Third reading.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Adam Zaklikowski, planner with the Community Development Department. This particular item involves the text amendment to the Anderson Hall PUD. This is the third reading for this item. If you recall, this was presented back at previous council meetings and also went to the Plan Commission for approval. Just to give you a quick refresher and for folks in the audience, Anderson Hall is located at it'd be the southwest corner of 141st Street and Promise. As you can see, a portion of the community is already built out. Construction continues today on the single-family homes portion of it. This particular amendment involves changing the hard corner from intended townhomes to these cottage-style single-family homes. And this was mainly due to some changes in the real estate market since the PUD was approved back in 2006. As you can see, here was the previous layout in 2006. The drawing on the right shows the new single-family residential component that would have alleyways for these homes. As is necessary, a number of the development standards did need to change in order to meet this new proposal, and we spoke of some of these changes at previous council meetings. Just wanted to point out, at second reading, you were looking for some clarification on the landscape standards, and we did some research, looked at the UDO, And this particular project will follow the Unified Development Ordinance standards as it relates to landscaping around the perimeter at 141st and Promise. We feel confident that the rate of trees that need to be provided, basically 9 trees for every 100 lineal feet, will be more than adequate when combined with the fencing or the mounding or potential knee walls that'll be provided by the developer. So we feel very confident that it'll meet the intent. Additionally, there were a number of emails that were received by staff, approximately 25 or so, that were included in your packet, all letters of support from the nearby residents. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Steve Harden, on behalf of the applicant Village Capital Corporation, is here to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Adam?
The petitioner is Village Capital Corporation, and they're being represented by Steve Harden of Fager Brackett Daniels.
And I think Adam touched on it, but the landscaping question was, I think, part of me the last time I was asking about the buffering, because a lot of times you'll have mounding, but many times I think the trees on the mounding is actually more important than the mounding. So on tab 5, I think this is what is specifically a representation of what 9 per 100 feet would be?
Correct. In fact, Mr. George, the landscaping will be even slightly more dense than that, which you see in that picture.
Okay. Because it's some of those around the perimeter, that's what we talked about the last time, because the driveways would come in that direction. So if it was screened enough, because 116th and Brooks School in the southeast corner has a similar design, and then I think Princess Cherry Tree Farms over on 116th Street west of here, they've got pretty good mounding. So that's kind of what I was using in my mind to see if there was enough screening. So it seems like it is adequate. Thanks.
Other questions for Adam?
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve ordinance 012114.
It's third reading. So it's motion by Pete. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by David. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7, ordinance 021714, request to annex 60 acres located at 16141 East 101st Street. Second reading and public hearing.
Yes, this particular request is the second reading for the annexation of the future Cynthia Ann Park South. If you recall, we conducted previously a first reading. At second reading is when the public hearing officially occurs in accordance with state law. Again, just for those folks that may not be familiar with it, Cynthia Ann Park will be located in the far southeast corner of Fishers, close to Fortville. It's at 101st Street, just east of Cynthia Ann Road. As you can see in this map here, the property would be contiguous to existing town limits, and it would be done in accordance with state law. It's a 60-acre property. Also, we are looking at rezoning it from R2 residential to OS open space. That's through a separate action. Just to fill you in on some of the amenities at the park, it would include a sledding hill, a progressive bike trail, which is non-motorized bikes, a number of tree houses, and a boardwalk trail. Again, this just shows a concept plan for some folks that may not have seen this. You can see up towards the top of the page is where that 50-foot tall sledding hill will be located, so that'll be the main feature of the park. And you can see some of the trails weaving their way through the property in addition to that boardwalk trail and that circular piece over there. So with that, we ask you to conduct a public hearing, and if you have any questions or comments, we'd be more than happy to try to answer those for you tonight.
Any questions for Adam before we have our public hearing? Very good. At this point, we'll open our public hearing. Anybody wishing to come up and speak, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please. Since there's no one coming to the podium, I will close the public hearing. Please note for the record that no one came forward for the public hearing. If there are any other questions, I have a motion to have second reading.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. We've had second reading. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, ordinance 021714D, request to approve and rezone for the Johnson property located at 12134 East 131st Street for R2 to C3, second and third reading.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Stotts, planner in the Department of Community Development. I'm here tonight to present the rezone request for 12134 East 131st Street. Again, as mentioned, it's the request to rezone 3.5 acres from R2 residential zoning to C3 commercial with restrictions. To give you the site location, the site is located to the west of Brook School Road on the north side of 131st Street, south of I-69. Mud Sox Fields is just to the west of this site here. The current zoning, R2, would is a primary use allowed for single-family dwelling units. However, there are non-residential uses that are also permitted in the R2 zoning district, for example, group home, cemetery, place of worship, and so on. The single-family, if you were to build a home on this location, you would use the R2 development standards. However, if you were to build a permitted non-residential use, the site would be required to use the use-specific development standards in the town's Unified Development Ordinance. The petitioner has requested the rezone to C3 with restrictions. The first part of the restrictions deal with the permitted uses on this site. The uses listed here would be the only ones allowed on site. As you can see, the general service business has been stricken. During the Plan Commission hearing, it was discussed that we don't have a clear definition of general service business in the Unified Development Ordinance, so they wanted to be a little bit more specific about what that use would be. So we came up with the small engine machine sales and services. They also did not feel comfortable with very low intensity retail as a use on this site, so the petitioner and staff agreed that we could get rid of that use as well. All the other uses in C1, C2, and C3 would be prohibited. The second part of the restrictions proposed for this ordinance, again, we would use the use-specific standards in the Unified Development Ordinance. Those are commonly used for a place of worship or a non-residential use in a residential zoning district. Those standards have additional architectural requirements if a petitioner was to tear down the existing pole barn and build new. However, that is not the intention of this rezone request. The use-specific standards also have additional landscaping and buffer yard requirements. Outdoor storage shall be completely screened from all views, just to highlight a few. In addition to that, the petitioner has agreed that all signage will be externally or non-illuminated, and hours of operation would be Mondays through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., closed on Sundays. And those standards have been written into the ordinance. We provided kind of a concept and layout here for expectations, what Mr. Johnson is proposing. As many of you are probably familiar, he currently has his business here in the town center and is looking to relocate it to this site. There is an existing 2,000 square foot pole barn on site that he would like to do minor renovations on the inside to add an office and public restrooms. The gravel parking lot would be paved, and then the landscaping would be installed, somewhat similar to what you're seeing here in those locations. With that said, we did hold a public hearing at the Plan Commission. One resident came forward and felt that the landscaping on site was appropriate and that the town should not require additional landscaping. Again, we've reviewed that and scaled it down a little bit, but there will be some landscaping which will be required to be added. They sent a unanimous positive recommendation. Therefore, staff would ask that you entertain holding second and third reading tonight. Mr. Johnson is in the crowd to answer any questions you may have, but he doesn't have a presentation. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin? Petitioner have any comments, or
I do not believe so. It's
just I know we had public hearing and planning commission. There's any public input tonight, just to play it safe?
oh, okay.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'll go make a motion to suspend the rules and approve on second reading ordinance 021714D.
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by David. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to something similar, ordinance 031714, request to annex 3.5 acres located at 12134 East 131st Street. It's a Johnson property.
We
Welcome
just
back.
went through the details, so I won't
Yes,
repeat
sir.
those, but we'd ask that you hold first reading, then we will do public noticing and finalize all the documentation required for second hearing.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any questions on that? Motion to have first reading?
So moved.
We had first reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 10, ordinance 031714, a request to approve an ordinance amending the Briarwood PUD affecting the concept layout and development standards. First reading.
Again, for the record, I'm Adam Zach Lukowski with the Planning Department. This particular item in front of you is the first reading. It's a text amendment to the Briarwood PUD. As part of this amendment, it would be renamed Oakhurst. The project is located right across the street from the Cynthiana Park South that we spoke of. It's located at the northeast corner of 101st and Cynthiana. Again, it's out in the southeast corner of our community. As of today, it's just an agricultural field. It's surrounded by a number of rural areas, rural residential homes. Over to the west is where the future Steeplechase subdivision would be located. Again, as you can see here, to the south is where the park would be located. There's also the square property to the south is owned by Hamilton Southeastern School District, so that could potentially be a school site over there. In terms of the zoning, this particular property carries, of course, a PUD zoning, residential. Over to the west is, again, some other PUD zoned areas, and it's surrounded by R2. And as I noted earlier, to the south it shows R2 for the park, but we're looking at rezoning that to open space. For this particular amendment specifically, the property is a little over 30 acres. The current PUD calls for 50 lots. What this amendment would do is it would bring it down to 49 lots, and the Ryland Homes is the applicant on the project. The main reasoning for bringing this forward to the town is they were concerned about the high amount of infrastructure that is planned for a relatively small subdivision. So the current PUD called for about 3,200 lineal feet, and this amendment would bring it down to about 2,300. Now, as part of that, and we'll show you momentarily, there would only be one point of access that would be provided to the subdivision as part of this amendment, and that would come from Cynthiana Road. Of course, previously it had 2 points. However, because they're not hitting the 50-lot threshold, they would still be allowed to have 1 point of access and still meet the fire department requirements. Below, you can see some of the homes that have been proposed for this subdivision. Again, as part of the PUD, these concept drawings do carry some weight. The home builder would have to build something in substantial conformance with these drawings. Again, here you can see the before and after plans. On the left, you can see there was almost like a local frontage road on 101st Street. Now what the proposal is to simply have one main street off of Cynthiana. There'd be a T intersection. The lots are placed accordingly off of that. We're currently working with the applicant and with their legal representatives from Baker Daniels on some issues related to architecture. We continue to work through those, and the item is scheduled, if with your blessing, to go to the Plan Commission as the next step. So with that, if you have any questions or comments, we'd be more than happy to answer those for you. Thank you.
I do have a question, John. The threshold, and maybe Steve or Russo, you can speak to this, the 50 houses, is that, how do we arrive at that number, that we only need one entrance for 50 homes? I'm just asking because I didn't know there was such a number out there. That you only need one entrance into this particular 50-home subdivision rather than two that was proposed, and that meets your requirements?
The biggest concern for us is to have two ways out of subdivision if it's a certain size, and that the cul-de-sacs, that we can get the fire apparatus around the cul-de-sacs. And our people are at these meetings, and they review that as the development area does. So we look at these ahead of time, and we're happy with how it's situated now.
So 50 homes, I mean, is there a rationale as to how we arrived at 50 homes?
For the fire department?
Yeah.
Primarily, what we're concerned about is the accessibility of fire apparatus in two ways in and out of a subdivision. As far as a number of homes, that's not our area of
Chief,
expertise.
maybe a
They're
point.
going from 2 to 1, though. That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking for, because I'd want you to have 2 accesses. Am I
Right.
misunderstanding something?
Point of
Yeah, I guess-
clarification here, Chief. In your plan review or in your planning standards,
Right.
Adam had mentioned that your fire marshal had said that a subdivision with less than 50 homes only requires one entrance and exit, not two. And I think Councilwoman Cox's question is, how did those standards come about? Where did we get those standards in terms of allowing a subdivision with less than 50 lots to only have one ingress egress?
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay. We'll get there.
I don't know if 50 is a benchmark, a standard in our industry, or the configuration of the subdivision identifies that 50 is okay, but I can find out for you from our Prevention Bureau.
That'd be good. I guess I'm just concerned 50 homes, but to me, they're all important. So I'd want to have 2 access so you can get in and out and be able to turn around and all that. So anyhow, just curious.
Another quick example would be the Haven subdivision at 96th and Cumberland, where they have 80-plus homes, and we do have 2 ways in and out of there. And I'll find out what the difference is, and I'll get that explanation for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Adam?
It might be in here, and I apologize, Adam, but the before and after, the before it had a 3-sided first floor brick wrap for certain lots, and then the current one has same type of lots where you show where those are going to be, but it's a 4-sided brick wrap, but it's a wainscot. Is that lower? Is it not the first floor? I'm just trying to just think through what that looks like.
Yes, it would be, Councilman George, it would be a lower wrap, but on all 4 sides of the home.
Got it.
So one of the things that we continue to look at is even that standard going to get you the amount of visual interest driving down 101st? And obviously, if it's only a few feet above the home, it may not entirely achieve that goal. So we're looking to expand some of the criteria and the options that they can do to give you some more architectural interest back there. Again, since we do have a pretty long line of homes. And so the applicant and the legal staff have been good to work with and receptive to those issues, and we continue to work through those.
Okay. Yeah, you just might point that out to the Plan Commission, and we'll just see how they come down to.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Adam. Petitioner, I believe, is here tonight as well. I'm sure they'd like to.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. For the record, my name is Steve Harden. I'm a partner in the law firm of Faegre Baker Daniels, and I'm pleased to be here representing the petitioner. The builder is Ryland Homes, and the developer, and Kenny Windler from Ryland is here this evening, and the developer is Boomerang Development, and Corby Thompson is here this evening. We appreciate Adam and the staff working with us, and won't really go over the same things that Adam just did, but I'll just address a couple of things. The key three reasons why this petition is back requesting the update, since it was originally approved by Centex, or proposed by Centex back in 2006. Ryland has now acquired the property and has looked at it and redesigned the homes that were planned. When they came in 2012 to make the first update to it, they had a certain design plan for the homes, and those were going to average around $325,000. The architectural series, which is the series that's being proposed now, is the same price point. They've just had some updates and design changes for those, and as well as with Corby's input, they looked at the concept plan that Adam showed you that was up there originally. It just had a lot more infrastructure for only 49 homes. His numbers up there, we would kind of update those a little bit more. It's approximately 1,700 linear feet of additional streets, sewer, water, utilities, and that's just going down one way. When you add the sidewalks and curbs on the other side, it's twice as much of that. It's all the public right-of-way. Those public improvements are things that the town would then, or this town and then eventually the city would maintain in the future. So there's a lot of efficiencies both from the upfront costs as well as the long-term maintenance for it to relook at it. The third issue was it was really exciting to see the park, Cynthian Park, described, and the development team really supports it, thinks it's going to be awesome. The original plan didn't contemplate that, and so instead of having the homes fronting, looking out at all the traffic and activity that's going to go around 12 months out of the year, the thought was let's make the internal development, make the development internal, and then provide a really significant buffer. If you're familiar with Corby's project on 116th Street, River's Edge, along the, west of Allisonville. It's got a very good substantial tree line that's essentially opaque. You can't see into it. So our main goal is to buffer the neighborhood from the schools and the buses and from the park and the traffic that'll be coming there. So those are the three main reasons why the changes have been made. And then I think as a follow-up to something that David mentioned, the architecture here also has, before it was three-sided, first floor masonry wrap, for certain designated homes. Now it's four-sided, 3-foot wainscot plus a menu to pick from for architectural standards. So it's a combination of different things. Everyone's trying to get to the same thing. We've done this before, and so we'll continue to work with the staff as we go through the process. But with that, we appreciate your consideration, and we'll hopefully see you back for second reading. Thank you.
Any questions for Steve?
I do like this layout. I think, before many of the homes would have backyards facing backyards, and then this one, I think it's going to have an open backyard for most of them.
Okay.
First reading.
We've had first reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next item on the agenda, request to approve a contract for Cynthian South Bike Trail installation.
Good evening, Council. For the record, my name is Tony Elliott with the Parks and Recreation Department. Very excited tonight to share this proposal, this request to approve a resolution approving a contract for the Cynthian South Bike Trail installation. Let's see. The proposal in front of you we originally discussed at the March 3rd Town Council work session. A couple people earlier tonight had mentioned the Cynthian South project already. One of the major amenities of Cynthian South that we believe really will draw people in as a destination point, I'm not sure what this is up here. If we could switch to the overhead. One of the pieces that we believe will really be really create the park as a destination point is the mountain biking component. These mountain bike trails before you are progressive bike trails, so a number of different features, both in the topography with rocks, with logs, various man-made structures as well. So before the council tonight is a request to approve this resolution adopting this contract. This is a budgeted item in the Cynthian South project. The amount on this proposed contract is not to exceed $120,000. The contract, as we discussed on March 3rd, is a National Joint Purchasing Alliance contract with Progressive Trail Designs. The NJPA contract is essentially a buy board. The reason we are choosing to go with NJPA in this case is to keep the rates as low as we possibly can and work with a trail designer who's going to build us a facility and install these different components and ramps that we know will be durable, will be safe, will be sustainable, in this park. So about 1.5 miles of trails and different features total. So once again, before the council is this request to approve this resolution adopting this contract. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Jason Stouter with Progressive Trail Designs is here tonight as well to help answer any questions.
I have a couple of questions, actually, maybe a question for Jason. I understand there is an association here in Indiana that is affiliated with a mountain biking association, which is then also the state affiliate of the International Mountain Biking Association. Do you work with them to seek their advisement on the mountain bike portion trail of that?
Yes, we do in many cases, and if that is the wishes of, through the design portion of the project, we're happy to invite anybody in. That's part of the component is a design meeting where we'll actually be out on site. We'll be scoping in, flagging in, working with the landscape architect that's doing the overall layout as well, since our portion is simply the bike trail, because that's what we're experts in. So we work with them as well. And then we're also a part of or members with IMBA as well, which is the International Mountain Bike Association.
Okay.
We have agreements and endorsed through them and work with their parent trail building company as well to provide features and to do design and build with them as well.
So I don't want to assume then, since you are working with them, whatever that means in detail, is this going to be listed? Because I understand mountain bikers look for the rated trails, they like to ride them, and they will drive seeking out these trails. Is that going to be true for this particular trail?
For this particular park, it will probably be listed as more of a, because what the intention of this one is more of a basic beginner to intermediate style trail. So it won't be like an epic, like IMBA rates different trails, because there you have to have, I think it's 20 plus miles to be even considered an epic. So this is more of a bike park. Anything under a mile, I mean, it is a trail and it has the skills features and the skill building. So it will be listed and it'll be unique to this area because no one has these kind of features or anything that's in this region.
In region is Indianapolis metropolitan area?
Yeah,
Okay.
easily, yeah.
Okay.
Our closest installation would be Milwaukee area that we have stuff, and then Fort
Okay.
Washington, Wisconsin as well.
Great, great. Thank you.
And then quickly, if you can, Tony, just give me an idea, and you talked about working with the current design people that we have going on in that park, right? So give me an idea of completion date, and also, you're going to come back and show us this design. How much is the skills features? How much is just kind of moving dirt around and making trails and doing whatnot? And the other side of it is I'd really like to know, when the schedule of completion is going to be for these various things. I mean, you go out there and you start seeing that sledding hill starting to take shape. Of course, now that we're hopefully out of snow, cross your fingers. I'd really like to see some completion date times. Been a lot of questions like that coming from the guys, residents, and the folks out there.
Sure, absolutely. So let's see, in general, the way that this works, the way that this contract works, as Jason mentioned, so the architect on the project is Rundell Ernstberger. They're finishing up. We're at 95% construction documents at this point. The project is scheduled to go to bid, to go to bid here in about 2 weeks. Where Progressive Trail Design comes in is, again, they work kind of with a designer on the front end to look at the macro scale of the park. Where can trails generally go in? Once the general contractor is hired on the project, they'll come in and sort of fine grade, if you will, and help. Once you've got these big hills, so to speak, they'll come in and cut the trails, adding these different features. So they work, again, both with the architect kind of on the front end, GC on the back end. And forgive me, I'll read from the council action form so I make sure to get this right. In terms of the timeline, the contract asks within 45 days of execution, Progressive Trail Design shall complete and provide to Fishers a master plan for the site. Within 60 days of Fishers' approval of the master plan, Progressive Trail Design shall complete and provide to Fishers the final plan, and then within 90 days, providing written approval of the final plan, PTD shall complete the installation of all the equipment in the trail. So I think in general what that looks like from a practical standpoint is the sledding hill and the mountain bike components I think should be ready probably by late fall. This fall, I know, talking with the town manager, our goal is to really have the sledding hill open and these mountain bike trails open and ready for use by this fall.
Great. Any other questions for Tony? Do a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve item 11R031714B.
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by Renee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Move on to item 12, request to approve appointments to town boards and commissions.
Good evening. Good evening, Council. I'm Nathan George, Deputy Town Manager. Just for your information, annually, the boards and commissions appointments or reappointments come forth before you in January. And anytime there's a vacancy or any type of appointment that needs to be made, that comes back before you. Tonight, there is a vacancy on the unincorporated Fall Creek Township Board of Zoning Appeals. A name that has been submitted through the applications process is for your review tonight is James Crawford, and you have his application there, requesting to be on the commission. Staff recommends this appointment, if the council would desire.
Mr. Crawford here tonight, by chance? No?
I don't think so.
A motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Pete, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by Renee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have it. We got
Thank
it.
you. He'll be notified.
Moving on to item 13, request to award construction contract for the B Camp Creek Trail project.
Good evening, Jeff Hill with the Engineering Department here before you tonight requesting consideration for a project that has been collaborated on between engineering and the Parks Department to bring a trail to the MI neighborhood called Ambria. It's adjacent to Oleo Road between 96th and 104th Street. The trail would kind of run along the B Camp Creek area out by Geist Reservoir, and this trail has been recently bid. And the lowest, most responsive contractor was Globe Asphalt Paving, and there were no math errors, no unbalanced bids found, and their proposed contract amount, $99,187 even, was well below our budgeted amount and the engineer's estimate. And we'd respectfully request approval tonight to authorize the town manager to approve the contract and execute it so we can move forward with the project.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by David, second by Pete. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Jeff.
very much.
Moving on to item 14, request to approve the health savings account deposit for new hires.
Good evening. For the record, Cece Hendricks with Human Resources. Before you this evening is a request to approve deposits into HSA accounts for employees who were hired in 2014. Prior to this year, new hires were not allowed to enroll into the HSA account. They had to choose the PPO account. And during budget discussions last summer, we contemplated changing that rule and allowing new hires to enroll into the HSA account at the start of their hire with the town of Fishers. In order to help with the transition into an HSA account, as well as incentivize employees to consider that plan, we also discussed during budget discussions allowing the town to put a prorated amount into their accounts to help them with those additional expenses with the higher deductible. So I'm asking for your approval for that deposit to be made for this year.
Any questions for Cece?
One point of clarification there as well. In health savings accounts statistically have shown a savings to the taxpayer by having our employees go onto the health savings account. So we would ask that going forward, any employee that joined the town of Fishers be given the opportunity to sign up for the health savings account regardless of when they actually start employment, and that we would be able to seed their health savings account pro rata for that year.
And thanks, Scott. That was almost a question I was going to ask. Additionally, Cece, just remind everybody where we're at with our health care over the last few years in terms of overall costs and what we've been able to do to maintain those.
Right. Starting in 2009, we implemented a couple new things. One was an on-site health clinic as well as a health savings account. And because of those two initiatives, as well as just a better claims experience, we've not increased our funding rates since 2009, which is pretty phenomenal. So we've been able to maintain a healthy balance in our health fund to pay claims and to pay administrative fees, and employees have been able to not have their premiums deducted from their paycheck at a higher rate since that time.
Certainly that's the envy of many employers, as me having employees of my own. Our health care costs have raised dramatically over the years, maybe too many fat accountants in my firm, but It's incredible that you've been able to keep those increases at nothing. It's very impressive.
Yes.
But
Go.
health safety account, I'm fully supportive of that. I think 2 years ago, my own personal company, we went through that, and that was exactly the problem that we had, was just that transition.
Yeah.
So I think this makes sense. It's something that we experienced and it worked, and it probably would for our employees as well.
Right.
Right.
Any other questions for CC? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Pete. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you, CC. Moving on to item 15, request to approve design contract for Riverside Junior High School ball diamonds. Welcome back, Tony.
Thank you. For the record, Tony Elliott, Parks and Recreation Department. All right, before the council is a request to approve a design contract for Riverside Junior High School for the Baseball Diamonds project. Parks and Recreation has been working on this project for a while, almost a year now, in terms of looking at the site concept and what would fit back here. Currently behind Riverside Junior High, there are 2 ball diamonds that you can faintly see underneath these site diagrams. The idea here would be to add a 3rd field, redo the 2 existing fields, add a restroom facility and connection trails behind the schools. Working with sports, we've determined the biggest need at this point are for baseball diamonds, so all 3 of these would be baseball diamonds. Let's see, in terms of floodway, the floodway actually is very close. It's very close to the pathway and the outfield lines, but we've taken care to make sure, especially that north field, that in terms of the fence, the outfield fence, that it could be a breakaway fence. So kind of contemplated what that would look like in terms of being in the floodplain. So before the council tonight is a request to approve this design contract with Context Design. The design fee itself is $66,500, which is a little less than 9% of the estimated total project construction of $757,800. The $66,500 plus all of the permitting fees, which would be done under Context contract, would total $80,000. And just a note, there was one item that did not get included in this contract, and those were the reimbursables, the fuel mileage, printing costs. That number is $800. So what we're requesting tonight, this contract, is not $80,000 as it says in your council action form, but it's $80,800, which is a clarification. So that is the request for this contract for design of this Riverside Junior High baseball complex. We would ask also with this request authorization for the town manager to execute the agreement. Thank you.
Questions for Tony?
Yeah, I got to remind me, because this is another one of those projects that we had gone down and we had done a lot of design review on, and I remember seeing, hurling fields, I remember seeing soccer fields, I remember seeing softball fields, and now we're to baseball fields, which kind of shocked me a little bit when I read it. So I'm just wondering where this iteration came from. Am I at the wrong park? I think I'm at the right park.
No, you're at the right park. There were several stakeholder meetings, including a lot of meetings with sports.
Okay.
And some of this, if you recall, when we talked in a work session about the elimination of a field at Eller Fields for the salt barn, we were shifting some of that demand over to Riverside. And just in general, talking to sports, they felt that their largest need was in the baseball arena. And so between that and then also Tony and several of us have had several conversations with the schools trying to work out a parking arrangement. We're not building additional parking. We can just leverage the parking that's there. Through all those different conversations, the scope has become far more refined. And now we're at a point where we feel very strongly that this is the design and we can get a solid price accordingly with the design. So we started with a scope that was probably here and ended up more aligned.
The other side, which I also too remember, Scott, was the fact that we were looking for adult softball, right? That was part of it, because I remember talking about having an adult softball field because we had trouble getting them fields that then could be put in temporary fences to house the youth softball. So, I mean, what are we doing with the adult softball leagues at the moment?
Tony?
Yeah, so all adult softball is now housed over at Holland Park. So we work together with sports to make sure that all of that was in one location. Before it was split between Eller Fields and Holland, so it's all in one location. With Eller Fields potentially going offline for the salt barn, we felt that the inventory, the need was at Riverside for those baseball diamonds.
And remind me, does Holland Park, are all those fields lit?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think
I don't
so,
know.
because,
I don't
and
think
if
so.
I also remember right, at Holland Park, there's only 2 softball and 2 baseball, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we can, because, my daughter's a softball player, so I remember practicing there a lot. So what we're going to do is is youth softball going to go there during the day, and the adults are going to be there more towards the evening hours?
Correct. Adult softball, so Parks and Rec is just keeping those on Sunday. Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening is the only day for adult softball.
Well, then here would be my point, Scott. I guess if we look at this thing in terms of scope, because I remember that park being somewhat costly when we were looking at that. When we approved that budget, I'm pretty sure we approved a pretty substantial budget to do those fields that include soccer and hurling and a lot of stuff down there. I would potentially look at any potential savings we're going to get there, maybe move the lights up to Holland Park for softball. Now, we may get some flack from the homeowners, but we'll have to deal with that, and that may need to be looked at for certain hours we do to other places. But
We could certainly look at repurposing those lights. I do know that our budget for Riverside is approximately $750,000.
Okay.
That has always been our budget. I do think that the design that's proposed today will use up every
Most
bit of
of
that. Yeah, I do. The $750,000 also includes a design, so all that's
Right,
in
right,
one.
right.
But if there is any money left over, I think we can certainly work to try to bring those lights over.
Okay.
Other questions for Tony? Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by Renee. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 16, request to approve the acceptance of town indemnification of the Haven subdivision.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jennifer Messer with Church Hill in Antrim, and this is a building permit, as it states, indemnity agreement for a Pulte development. At this point, Pulte is asking us to allow them to move forward by pulling building permits. They do not yet have sewer and water connectivity to these homes, but they have agreed and asked that we enter into this indemnity agreement so that the town is fully protected if they can continue to construct. This is not necessarily something that had to be brought to council, but we decided, since it was a deviation from current practices, that we would. The key piece to this is really not only is the town indemnified, but in addition to that, there's an agreement that Pulte will not seek, and we obviously will not grant, a certificate of occupancy. So essentially the deal is just it allows the developer to continue making forward progress. I think they expect water connectivity perhaps by the end of this week. They evidently the negotiations and work with HSC Utilities is going well on the sewer side as well, but their development will not be hindered if we move forward. As an additional matter, I will point you to number 5 on the back of the document. It also states that if for some reason Pulte were to transfer property within the subdivision prior to the certificate of occupancy being issued, again, they would have to have sewer and water for that to be issued, that they will disclose this agreement to any third party. So we do not end up in a situation where we really should even need the indemnification from a third party or from Pulte to deal with a third party, because they're going to know up front they're not going to get a certificate of occupancy unless water and sewer is available.
And I'll just supplement Jennifer's presentation, which is an update to confirm the water situation. The water actually should be complete and tested late this week or early next week, so that really may not even end up being an issue here. But even this is really in 2 sections, to be real clear. If they pulled a permit Friday and wanted to start on a home Friday, they can only put the foundations in. They can't put any flammable materials in. So it's just moving dirt around and putting in some block. And then until it's tested by Citizens Water and approved and fire protection is there and Chief's team signs off on it, nothing of any substance that could burn could be installed. So that's the one point. But again, I think within a few days that whole contingency is going to pass anyways. And then with respect to Hamilton Southeastern, you may remember when this was rezoned through first reading and second, third reading, there were some questions about where it was coming from, and was it coming from the top of the hill down, other ways. And that's just been a very long just a very long process. And so we have administratively, and this is not set forth in the ordinance, we have administratively
require builders to show us that you've got a connection to sewer. And what we see here is that it's coming, and they're just finalizing their agreement. And I'm not sure if they're talking about who's paying for what or exactly what size of pipe, but we know the sewer's coming. And so that's why we were comfortable and think it's appropriate to move forward, particularly with this indemnity from them, and then with respect to them requiring us requiring notice if they were to ever transfer the property before the sewer comes. Then we think the citizens are protected, and what we were looking to accomplish is accomplished.
It's also my understanding that the home builder is having some great response to those product out there. And I think it's my further understanding that if they continue to delay, they could lose some of the contracts which they could sell. And I was a huge fan of this project when it came forward in the first place. So I appreciate the fact that they're trying to find a way to continue to move forward, to continue that product moving rather robustly, because I think it's going to be a great product not only for the residents of Fishers, but maybe it can be replicated in other parts of the area, since I think Pulte knows I'm looking for one of those maybe somewhere in the future.
Do you anticipate, and not to be the devil's advocate, just in case, I mean, would there ever be a chance that the sewer and the water wouldn't come through and people wouldn't be able to move into their homes and et cetera, et cetera?
I think that would be the absolute worst case scenario, but it's always possible. The risk, however, is on the developer, not the town. So I would direct you specifically to paragraph 3. It's on the back side, I believe, of the agreement, the acknowledgement of risk. It essentially says that if the builder moves forward without water and sewer guaranteed, they're at a loss if it doesn't work out. So yes, worst case scenario, it's possible, but the risk is with the builder.
And not the town.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be supportive, but this really scares me. I don't want to set a precedent like this, because anytime you just incrementally squeeze something like this on your timeline, there's going to be a future project. You always get a little bit closer, a little bit closer. For this one, I know that these guys spent a lot of time with HSE, and that's probably the key word right there, to work through this. So I just wanted a couple questions. I think before, when it was rezoned and the project came through, we were looking at connecting, or at least what they would do would still have the ability to connect 96th Street. There's a couple properties there. Is that still the case? Okay, thank you. So that was the main thing. I just wondered, was it still headed in that direction? And I guess if you guys want this, I can be supportive, but anytime you do something like this, I feel like you're going to lose a little bit of leverage with HSE, but if you're heading in the right direction, that's...
Tim, I'll let you speak to that.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Tim Oakes. I'm an attorney with Ice Miller here this evening on behalf of Pulte Homes of Indiana. The simple answer to your first question is yes. Okay. It would provide service to additional homes. And the second answer in terms of why is this different, it is the dealings with HSE utilities. They've been long and arduous, is a very fair statement, and we're frankly doing things that aren't always done, and that's what's causing it to be drawn out. So I think staff has done a very good job in explaining the agreement, and all of the risk is Pulte. So we'd be happy to answer any other questions that the council might have.
Yeah. I guess I'll only make a comment. I am going to be supportive of this just from the standpoint I know that Pulte has done a tremendous amount of work to try and make this come together, and I know they've had a couple roadblocks. Particularly with HSC, they're trying to work through those. It's a great development just right down the street from where I live. Really excited about having it as part of our community. So I will be supporting this as well.
Thank you.
Any questions for Tim?
Can I go ahead and make a motion to approve item 16?
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by David. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have an item of new business on item 17. It's resolution number R031714C, a resolution of the town of Fishers, Hamilton County, Indiana, to authorizing the town manager to execute 3 quotes for pothole repairs. I believe we need to have a motion to add this to the agenda first.
Correct. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by David. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Thank you, Council President Weingart. This evening, before you, I have a resolution basically addressing, as anyone who's driven on our streets recently, we had a tough winter with potholes and things of that nature, and the asphalt plants, at least as far as we know, are about to open next week, and we want to get out ahead of this and be as aggressive as we possibly can in regard to fixing those troubled road areas that we have. What we would like to do is break the community into 3 sections and get the best competitive prices that we can under state law and under our purchasing requirements. That would mean 3 quotes for each one of those sections of town. My current spending authority, as you are aware, is up to $50,000. Otherwise, it has to go back to council for approval of those contracts. We would like to expedite that process by tonight, having you grant me the authority to approve not to exceed $150,000 for 3 different contracts so that we can get out on the street and start fixing these as soon as possible. If not, we would be looking at a delay of 2 weeks before we could bring it back to the next council agenda item. And to be honest with you, we want to get at the top of the list of any of these contractors, and they're in high demand at the moment, as you can imagine. So I would appreciate your consideration of this resolution tonight.
Any questions for Scott? Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Pete. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Scott. Any other unfinished or new business?
Yeah, I had one thing, John, real quick. I had an opportunity to meet a young entrepreneur over the weekend, and he is doing a bike sharing program. So, Tony, I'm going to give it to you separately, but if we could add that to our agenda, I know on the 27th, I think. But I just started to think of all the different parks and paths that we talked about tonight. When I go downtown and I park, there's an app now, and I just use that. The same thing's happening with, bike sharing programs. You don't even need a credit card with you. You just have an app, and then you can go to any of our parks that maybe have a path, whether it's Heritage Park or some of the others, and then you could just, rent a bike, and maybe it would get some more use, and as long as it's the same app and the same program. So not necessarily this guy, but, I think it'd be a good idea to try to add to some of the parks, and just the way that they're going, it's a lot user-friendly to utilize this and maybe get people a little bit more active. So I'll get that information to you, if we could add that to the agenda, just as a talking point through that meeting.
Thank you, David. Are there any claims that need to be pulled? Do I have a motion to adjourn with the trustee invoice payments and the accounts payable register?
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by Renee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.